G'day friends, welcome to the Concepts Stamp series. Today I have a very simple demo for you, and I'm actually really excited because I think it's really effective. So let's dive straight into it. I have the concept stamp set right here. The only stamp we're going to be using today is this full body, I say full body, head to hips stamp that I've got. I'm going to use this little lady. I've got my Distress ink in Victorian Velvet. Now, remember when I do these, I usually use the ink pad that is so light that you can't really see it, but for the purposes of videoing, I know that you do kind of need to see the lines that we're working with, so I typically wouldn't use anything that would still show up once I've worked on top of it. So if you have any lighter ink, I would suggest that you go with that, but for the demo, I'm just going to use this Victorian Velvet. I've got my acrylic block. Some people have been saying they don't have acrylic blocks to fit this, and I think, same. But I kind of put her on the side and she just fits on this. I mean, there might be a touch of an overhang, which, I'm okay with because I'm only going to stamp it down as a blueprint, but I kind of turned it on its side and it fits a little bit better than if I tried to just put it straight on the acrylic block like this. So if you do have a rectangular or a square block, just see if it fits on diagonally. If not, I used to use a cheap acrylic frame, the little glass or plastic, plexiglass, whatever it was that was inside the frame, and just put it on that. You could use the back of a DVD cover. In the Burke Creative Outlet Facebook group, there's actually a ton of suggestions for acrylic block alternatives. So head on over there if you're looking for some more hot suggestions. I've also got a Zebra disposable brush pen, and I've got this Pentel Pigment brush pen as well. The reason I want this is because I'm going to do all my lining with these ink brushes, and I like this one because it's really easy to get the details in there. It's a small hard-tipped brush pen, and I find that using brush pens can really freak some people out, but I find that the smaller and the more firm the brush tip, the easier they are to control. The longer and the softer the bristles, the harder they are to control. But there's some really fun techniques that you can get with those too, so don't discount them. Just know that they are a little bit trickier to work with. You might also just want to grab a regular black gel pen for some of the face details, but I'm pretty sure I'll be going in mostly with this. And that's all we're going to need. I'm going to give this a couple of goes because it can turn out quite different depending on, just literally one swipe of the brush stroke. First, I'm going to ink up my stamp. I'm going to put two on this page, just sisters, next to each other. I'm using a B paper, a cold press watercolor stock. There's no real need to use this kind of paper, but I do like that there's a bit of texture on it. I feel like that helps with the look that I'm going for. So I'm going to go for a very dry brush ink look. It's what I like to use when I'm doing fashion illustration. So I've got my sisters right there. Since I've still got the block out, I might stamp some on some crafts. I'm feeling a little fancy today and I want to see if I can make something fun on the craft. Now originally when I designed this stamp, she did have her head kind of skewed off to the side. You can still do that. I don't really want to have her head like fully off to the side, but if you place your stamp on and you push the head down first and then you slightly skew the body off to the side, this photopolymer is flexible, so you can start to get a cute little, head tilt moment. Very Instagram, broken doll hand on the hip kind of a look. So I'm going to start to do that on this one, and I'm just going to place the head off to the other side. It's going to come off my block a little bit, but I think I'll manage. And I might have them almost crossing each other at this point, and push down wherever I've still got my stamp there, hanging off the edge. No! Oh! They've got a ghost impression there. Never mind. That's all I need for the stamps right now. I hope you enjoyed that little trick because I think it just goes to show that your stamps can be a lot more versatile than you think. Not only with the different mix of the motifs that you have, but just by the way that you start to angle them on your block. Let's start with my little ladies here. I'm going to start a little simple. I'm going to take my gel pen just so we can get a little feel for it. And I'm just going to scratchy scribble over the noses here. For this, you want a really loose effect, so try not to be too precise about where you're inking anything. As you run over things like the eyebrows, you can just scribble them in. Honestly, the looser you do this, the more effective it will look for this particular illustration. And that is what we're doing with these concept stamps. We're building illustrations, not so much just stamping finished pieces. Although there is no problem with doing that. I prefer to build the illustration. As I go to do my eyes, I want to take my little Zebra disposable brush pen. I'm going to zoom you in real close for this bit. Alright, now that we're really close, I just want to fill in this little part of the pupil in the eye area. Oh, this is very wet, this one. Must have been abusing that one. I'm going to scribble in the little pupil area of the eye. Again, I don't want to be too precise because the looser this looks, the better this is. Leaving a little area for my catch light there. When I draw my eyeliner on, this is where I'm really going to start to build in a nice little dramatic moment. So I'm going to start from the outside. You can see I've tilted my page here because my hand likes to draw it this way, the brush stroke that I'm about to do. I'm going to start from the outside with a light pressure. And as I come to the top of the eye, I'm going to push a little harder and just slide it down the top of that eye line, easing up on the pressure as I get to the inside there. And that way it's going to give me a really nice tapered point on either end. And this is how you build in some nice dramatic cat eye. Very Sophia Loren. I don't know if anyone's going to clock that reference because I didn't do the voice, but if you can get that, I'm very impressed. For the other side, I want to mimic the same thing. If you need to do it in small, multiple small brush strokes, that's fine too. You don't have to get it in one swipe. We'll do the same over this side, but instead of having them angle up, I think I'm going to have them angle straight out this time. Just for a bit of a different look. And then scribble in the pupil area, leaving a little white space for your catch light. That is as much as we're going to do on the eyes. I do want to put some lashes because I am still me and I'm still going to try and put them everywhere. Just some corner lashes this time. You're not going to notice too much of that detail once we're finished. Since we're so close, I'll give you the lips as well. I do like to fill these in. So I'm just going to scribble them in as well, leaving little white gaps. You don't want to color them in completely. It might look, it will probably look harsh because it's black lipstick, but if you leave some little white gaps, it will look like it's a little glossy and like she's wearing lipstick, not that she has, flat black lips. That's as much as we need for that. I wonder if I should just keep you zoomed in this close because it is easier to see this way. Let's keep you zoomed in for a second. On the left side over here, I've got my Pentel Pigment brush pen now. So you want a brush pen for this or an inking brush that has these bristles that will separate because we're trying to get a really dry brush effect. And what that means is I don't need it to create a really blocked in, flat effect. I don't need a flat color here. I just want all of that broken line texture. And I'm just going to fill in the top part of her head there, leaving some breaks so I can give her a nice bang. When I get to the side of the face, I want to follow that line that we've got stamped in down towards her ears. And this is where the pressure is going to come back in, where you start, really lightly, and then you push a little bit more, and then you ease up a bit and push. And we're going to squiggle these, little kiss curls down off to the side. That is as simple as our hair is for her. On top of her head, I'm going to put just a little bit of a circle here. And from that circle, I want to bump out just 2 gratuitous brush strokes off to the side, like a big bow. And I might want to pull them back in as well, just to look like a nice big bow on top of her head. Again, we're really playing with that broken line texture. If you find that your brush is a little too dry in some areas, you can go back and block it in a little bit. But I don't tend to overwork it. The best thing about this is if it doesn't work the first time, you can just stamp it again and give it another go. And you know what? I might put in just a little one down the bottom as well. Might even look like a ribbon. And that is her hair done. For this one, I want to follow the line that I've got stamped out, starting from the ear really lightly and then following up, pushing into the page so I can really separate those bristles and get that dry brush effect. And then just fill in the area that I see. When you are filling it in, try not to go too far outside of the line of the head because the hair will look like it's really bulked out. And typically hair doesn't leave too far from the scalp unless you've, had a full 80s party the night before and you've teased it out and you've got a head full of hairspray. So I like to keep it quite close to the headline. On the top of her head, I'm going to just scribble in a big circle right in the middle so she can have a nice little bun. And by little, I mean huge. I might even want to try and put in the little bow that she has over here by just pushing out a moment. Pushing out a moment? What does that even mean? I've been watching too much Drag Race. Just pushing out some lines that taper in closer towards the hair here, but fan out. You know what I mean? Like almost triangle shapes. And I'm going to go for a little ribbon just underneath. I want to put in these kiss curls again, but I'm going to try and keep them a little bit more understated this time. So connecting at the top of the ear and just doing the same thing with the difference in the pressure on that brush and squiggling those lines down. All right, now we're done with the face, but before we move on, I'm giving them matching beauty spots on either side of their mouth because I can't help it. I've got my little brush pen again. I'm just going to lightly trace around the ear details, very lightly. I don't want these lines to really pop, but I do want to ink them in. Now I'm going to flip my page upside down because I like to flip my journal or my page rather than flip my hand into an uncomfortable position. So for me, I want to start this chin. I want it to be a really fine line when it gets beneath the mouth, but I want to kind of, darken that line up towards the hair. So for me, my hand likes to draw that stroke a certain way. So I'm going to angle my paper however I can get it so that my hand can, be in the right position for me to draw that line. And this is why you see, if you've ever watched my videos and you've seen the book Flying Around, this is why I do that, because I just find that the muscle memory that I've built in over years and years and years of repetition has led me to enjoy drawing lines a certain way. And you might not ever think about it, but you probably have the same thing too. It's probably why, if you're drawing faces, you find it easier to draw one side than the other because the lines are all flipped. And it's become really comfortable for your wrist to do something one way, but you can't necessarily do it the other way unless your whole body gets involved. So I just flip the paper around so that I can, it's especially with eyeliner. I don't know why it is, but with eyeliner, the page just goes flying at that point. Anyway, now we're going to trace around the body. What I want to do is make the lines on the left-hand side darker than the ones on the right-hand side, which just means pushing a little harder. So as I trace around this neck, I'm going to push into the page a little bit more. I'll still ease up in areas because I want that nice difference in line width. But as I go to trace around the right-hand side, I'm just going to keep it a light, even pressure all the way down. This is going to add a slight shadow to that side of the body. And in doing it now, I see that I probably want to bring in the bigger brush pen because we've got a lot of that texture going on in the hair. And I want to bring some of that drama down to the body as well. So underneath, I'm going to fill in a little space under the chin for a shadow. And then I'm going to retrace the outline on the left-hand side of all these shadows. It will look kind of crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It's not supposed to look super neat and very defined. You're really going for that effortless kind of brush stroke look. So try your best not to overwork it. I find that is the key to making all of this look successful. I'm going to give them little chokers because I'm still loving that. I've been loving that for a while now. It's been a hot minute. And then as I go to put in their clothes, I have a base here that I could work with. I'm essentially doing the same technique that we looked at years ago. If you ever watched the brushstroke mermaid tutorial, where instead of actually drawing the bodies, we just use brushstroke lines. So I'm going to do the same thing with my pigment brush pen here. And I'm just going to connect the lines from the side of the body. I want to connect the shoulders first so that it looks like she's wearing an off-the-shoulder dress. But then I'm going to connect the lines from the side of the body that we have stamped out here. As I get to the waist, I might want to flip the lines. So, they're running one way and then they start to flip as they go down. And I'm just going to end with a bold brush stroke at the bottom. You could continue this down into a gown or, a mermaid tail or whatever shapes. Yeah, this works really well with silhouettes. So if you find that there's a certain shape you're trying to emulate, or I don't know, if she's the topper of one of your journal pages, you could bring this brush stroke all around the edge for a border. As with most things, you're only limited by your imagination, so let it run wild. And for this chick here, I think we're going to do something we haven't done before and just take these brush strokes and start giving them different angles. I haven't tried this, so I don't know if it's going to work, but let's start from her shoulder that's exposed, and let's start running these lines down to the side of her body. And as we get to the waist, I think I want to flip it and have the lines running out towards her hips this way. Again, we're working with this dry brush effect. So if you're using something that, if you're just using ink and a paintbrush, just make sure you dab off a bit of it before you start this process. Otherwise, you'll get a very blocked in line. But I'm just trying to fill the space I've got here with these brush strokes. I might even bring it back into the body in here. This will look like a lot of fabric that's been gathered and, ruched. Ruched isn't the word I want to use. Pleated? I think gathered. I think gathered is exactly the word I wanted to use, but I second guessed myself. And there you go. Those are our two ladies right there. They're just not more difficult than that. I think the fun of this is really playing with your brush pen and seeing what kind of, hair shapes you might want to try, how big you want this bow to be, different hairlines. If you don't want to draw in the eyes, if you're finding it difficult to draw in the eyes, take this bang just beneath the eyes, then you can eliminate that altogether. Maybe we'll try that over on our craft version here. We'll get a little experimental on this one. So for her, I'm going to just cut off the whole face. Just gonna be very sear. I still want to give her my little kiss curls. Maybe she can have some Minnie Mouse buns. Or Mickey ears, depending on what you want to see them as. That's the great thing about this dry brush technique, is that it's a lot of implied detail. You don't actually have to finish anything a certain way. People will just see it and they'll make of it what they will. So the less you try to put in there, the more open for interpretation it is. It's actually pretty effective when you're learning illustration, because you'll find out that it's really not that hard. I guess for this example, maybe it would be good to show you if you wanted to complete these. I'm just going to add the bottom of this on by extending it down to the bottom of the page. I would probably do this in a pencil so you wouldn't see it, or I could erase it. But for our demo, I think we'll be fine. Let's give her the same look. We'll see if we can make them different, even though we approach them the exact same way. Right, for this one, since we've got so much body, I think I might want to just be the most and just do brush strokes for their entire body. So I don't even think I'm going to outline the outline of the body this time. I'm going to let all of these brush strokes imply where that body is and what it's doing. When I get to the shoulders, I want to leave the shoulders and I want to come down the body instead, because if I add them to the width of the whole stamp, it'll look very blocky and very bulky, and I'll show you how we can define those arms when I get to the bottom of this skirt. So again, I'm just following from from one side to the other. I'm just adding in these dry brush strokes. This is so fun to revisit. I feel like I haven't done this since those brushstroke mermaids that I beat to death in 2017. I don't even know if I did one of them in 2018, because I feel like I did a trillion in 2017. I did like them though. Now when I come back to the arms, I'm just going to try and add these brush strokes in between the black stripes that I've got on the body. So there's no real reason for that other than, you can add them totally right next to a black one, but I just want to keep them smaller, and I find that if they're a little separated from those, it reads a bit better. But there's no rule there. I just like to make them smaller, then you really get a distinction between the dress and the arms. I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. And remember, if you've used a light ink, none of this will show, and it will look like you've just magically appeared these brushstroke bodies. But as I get to this side where I don't want the lines to connect, so I do want to stop wherever that line is going to connect to another one. It's okay when I get to the body because there's an arm that separates those two. But especially down at the gown here, down at the dress, I want to make sure that there is a line that stops from connecting to the other one, the other brush stroke. I don't want two brush strokes that connect. I want two separate ones. That way you'll be able to see the difference between who's standing in the foreground and who's standing in the background. And there's no real trick to it other than just leaving a little space. If you find that you've accidentally connected one, if it was on a white piece of paper, you could get a white gel pen and just separate them again. But because they're stamps, I would just suggest stamping out another piece. It'll take you 2 minutes. These are like super quick illustrations. They're really, really fun for journaling because you can just get such an effective look without really having to do much. Now when we get to the arms, again, I just don't want them to connect. So I'm going to put my little dashes in there and make sure they're separated. Okay, I mean, I would probably call that done if I was just on a white piece of paper. I might want to add some accoutrement. I could put in some of these little stamps around there and really start to decorate them fun. But I have tried to keep this one super simple. So instead, I'm working on craft because I can use a white gel pen or even like a light colored pencil and start adding in some really fun details. So you might want to pop out some of these highlights on the lips, so it looks like she's got some lip gloss on. You might want to pop out some highlights on the nose. You might even want to start drawing, you know, your ribbons on or little decorative elements, because it's really going to pop against the black and the craft. So I would really let yourself just kind of have fun with these ones. Any kind of mid-tone paper would work. Like, it doesn't have to be a craft, it could be a grey, would also be really effective. You also don't have to use a black ink for this. You could use colored inks. There are a lot of those liquid dye brush pens around that you could use. I don't really enjoy those because especially when you use white over the top of it, they tend to bleed into whatever is laid on top of the surface. So for mixed media, I actually find them really irritating. But for something like this, they probably wouldn't be an issue at all. And then you could play with lots of fun colors. If you found that your body did get a little lost or you just wanted to pop it back out, you could probably run this white line back around your stamps and just really separate them there. You might want to make all these white lines super neat to contrast how loose and textured all of these other lines are. But if I'm already in a bit of a loose and expressive mood, I'm probably not going to do that. Let's be real. Since we've got so much black space up around the head here, you might want to add, I don't know, little flower crowns, or it's going to get, crazy at this point because I don't know when to stop. But I can't help it. I want to show you. I want to show you everything you can do. Leaves, let's put leaves everywhere. Why not? Look, if you want to achieve something specific, you might want to be selective with your placement. But I don't find that I ever really sit down when I'm, going into an art journal or something. I don't find that I'm ever really trying to create something specific. I just want to have a fun play. You might even want to put, instead of the chokers, you could put the same idea, but a belt down on their waist. I'm really in the mood now to just add everything, so we should probably just stop. Either way, these are both the pieces that we've created today. I would encourage you just to be expressive with it, be loose, play around with it, stamp a bunch out so you can try them all at once. You do not have to do the brush stroke bodies. I have some samples here. If you just want to trace the contours of what's already stamped out, you've got a cute little dress there. You can put some little straps on, put a little halter top on, add your patterns in there, put some washi tape in there. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I think if you have fun, you're on the right track, right? So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I know at present there is currently no stock of these stamp sets in the store, but I don't know when you might be watching this, so I'll still leave a link to my Etsy shop below in the description box. I have a reorder on the way that should be here in a couple of weeks, and I will do my best to keep these stocked in store for you. Honestly, you just freak me out every time I go to launch something. It's just gone within a flash, and I'm so grateful. It is the best problem to have too many people wanting your stuff. So even though I do feel really bad and I am really sorry that I can't seem to keep it in stock, I appreciate you, and I really want to thank you for all your support and getting involved and sharing that with me. Like I said in the first video, I created this kind of on a whim. Well, I have something really fun to show you as well. This was how on a whim it was. When I was getting ready to go to Creativation, I had a little post-it note beside my computer, and I was trying to think up fun stamps that I could use to demo for the show, because I knew I was going to be there and doing demos, and I thought, well, it might be fun. Like, I love fashion, so maybe I should do these little fashionista stamps, and I could just draw their clothes on, and, it'd be a fun little dress-up dolly party. But almost immediately after that, I thought, you know what I really liked the idea of the face base and the Decora sets and the unbothered sets, like how they all came together, and I found myself experimenting with them in different ways. So I just originally called it Face Base 2 and Decora 2, and they were going to be two separate sets that were just an extension of the first one. And as I started creating it, I was only sending it off for a sample, and I didn't think it would all fit onto one set, and as it were, I managed to fit it all onto one set and add a few stuff when I really got clever with the Tetris of it all. Because if you don't know anything about manufacturing, kind of anything really, there has to be space between these things, and they can only be a certain dimension, and they have to be able to fit in your packaging properly. So I had to do some wizardry to get them all onto this 6x8 stamp set, and also have them still maintain that size that, this would stamp over the eye and create the same shape it was actually really funny to put all that together. But all of that to say, because I was able to get them on a 6x8 stamp set, I was able to lower the price point, which is just fantastic when you're independent and you're trying to get your stuff out there. Sometimes it can be a bit of a struggle to make large purchase orders because it's like, oh, do you pay your rent or do you have stamps for people to buy? I don't even know why I'm going on this tangent. I guess I just wanted to have a little story time with you because this was such a simple demo. But either way, this was the post-it note that made these stamp sets up, and I'm so happy that you're enjoying them, I guess is what I wanted to get at. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. There'll be more tutorials coming at you sporadically. Please feel free to keep tagging me and sharing your work with me on social media. I love to see it. I love to see how creative you get. You always have ideas that have just never crossed my mind, and that's such a satisfying thing to see. And I love that you're getting involved in your illustration a lot more. Not that I'm trying to, be an illustration pusher, but but I really like it. I think it's a wonderful skill to have. And if these help you get to a place where you feel ready to ditch the stamp set altogether and just start drawing, that would be amazing. Again, you don't even have to have these stamps to do these tutorials. I should have said that at the start, but you could use any stamps that would work for you. I'm guessing that if you are watching this video, you probably have a small collection of stamps or a, small collection. I just want you to get involved and have fun and sharing that fun with you. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Hope you have a wonderful time playing. Until next time, bye.